Thanks for joining us here on Service to School Stories. Your hosts for this season are Alec Emmert, Service to School CEO and Navy veteran.
And Sydney Mathis, Chief Program Officer and former college admissions officer. This season will cover topics as it relates to higher education, military service transition, and career opportunities and outcomes for veterans. Join us as we share student stories, inside tips from the admissions office, and conversations with employers actively hiring student veterans. Here we go.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Service to School podcast. Today we have Alex Walsh on. He was a fire control technician first class in the U.S. Navy. Fire control technicians maintain and operate the ship's weapon systems, and he was a specialist in its 5-inch guns. He was stationed in Rota, Spain on a guided missile destroyer. After his service, he went on to Harvard University, where he studied government with a focus in policy and local economics. He's currently working at Americorps in Traverse City, Michigan, where he is a college completion coach, where his main focus is student success. So I'd like to take a second and get a little bit more about you, Alex. So could you tell me about yourself, where you grew up, and what drove you to join the Navy?
Yeah, well, it's really nice to be on this podcast with you. I've heard some of the previous veterans talking about their experiences. So for those of you, my name is Alex Walsh. I was born and raised in Traverse City, Michigan. I went to high school here, Traverse City Central, and I was part of their Simon Tech program. It's like an honor STEM program that gears students for like pre-med and engineering and computer science. But like I say, as a senior, I had some difficulty obtaining like necessary student loans to go to university right away. And so I decided to attend my local community college, Northwestern Michigan College. And at the time I had started writing a book. I was kind of interested in getting creative writing. So I changed my study of and pursued English and creative writing and political science. And so that's kind of how I started. I was very involved on campus. I was like an officer for like 6 clubs and organizations, including the college newspaper and student government. And got my associate degree in 2012. And applied to a couple of universities for transfer, and I was admitted to both schools, but I ran into the same financial obstacle. My parents were unable to co-sign for student loans, and I just could not get the student loans without co-signer. And so I looked for different ways to get around that hurdle. And so I joined the Navy. And I figured that if I'm going to join the Navy, I might as well go for the full experience. And so I joined active duty and did 6 years. I entered in as the advanced electronics and computers field, and then at the end of boot camp, they send you off to your A school, and that's how I found out I was going to become a fire controlman. And so I went through that.
Gotcha. Can you tell us a little bit about what a fire controlman does?
Yeah, so there are 2 main types of fire controlmen. So you have Aegis, which kind of works more on it's a different kind of weapon systems with like missiles and radar systems. And then I'm more of a conventional type. So we work more with like more mechanical type gun weapon systems. And so so we operate and maintain weapon systems aboard a variety of different kind of Navy warships. So I was aboard a USS Carney guided missile destroyer, and I specialize in the 5-inch gun weapon system on the forecastle. And but my division was in charge of all the gun systems on the ship, so like CWIS and now the 50 cals around the perimeter of the ship and all the guns really, which is pretty fun because before I even joined the Navy, I had never touched a gun before in my life.
Wow, very cool. And your ship was based in Europe. Was that a choice of yours? Did you want to go to Europe? And if so, what drove that decision? And then what was your experience like over there?
Yeah, so that's actually really cool time. And so what I didn't know at the time when I was going through the Navy, going through A school, was that depending on how you perform in your class, you could choose your orders where you're going to go next. And so I just did the best I could so I can try and aim for to be the top of my class so I can choose whatever kind of orders I wanted. And I heard rumors that that the Navy was going to send 4 destroyers over to Spain. And so I just did my research ahead of time, see the names of the 4 destroyers. And so that way I can keep an eye out for orders going to any of those ships. And I saw orders going to USS Carney. It was currently stationed in Mayport, Florida. And so I knew that ship was going to go to Spain. So that's where I really wanted to go.
Gotcha. Had you traveled much before? What drove your decision to want to go to Europe?
So I've always wanted to go visit Europe. Just kind of growing up, I took classes on European history, world history, but also my family has ties to Europe as well. My great grandparents immigrated to the U.S. from Italy, from Sicily, from Hungary, and then England, and some. I think we also have some Irish family as well. But yeah, so my great grandparents came over from Sicily, so I've always wanted to go visit Sicily, and I was just really obsessed with Irish culture when I was younger, so I really want to go to Ireland as well. And but growing up, I never really traveled much. I never really made it outside the state of Michigan, except for a couple of times to visit my brother before he deployed to Iraq for Operation Iraqi Freedom. And then I also went down to Florida for like a journalism conference when I was part of the college newspaper. But that was pretty much it. Vacations for my family growing up was visiting family down in Detroit.
Oh, that's cool. So what was so there must have been some culture shock then. What did it feel like when you first got to Spain?
Yeah, so very different culture. I feel like they kind of operate on the time shift. And because they eat lunch very late in the afternoon, and I don't think dinner's until around like 10, maybe 11 p.m. at night. So that took some adjustment. And I kind of felt like during the summer, like the sun wouldn't set till like 11. And so like really late evenings, and it's a different type of environment. People very friendly. We outside of Rota, most of the people living in like some towns like Jerez de la Frontera, they would speak Spanish, only Spanish. And so thankfully I spoke Spanish. And so I was able to make some friends, and I was able to make friends with some locals who were able to teach me a lot about the local culture, and I learned a lot.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my next question is did you know Spanish before you got there? And so how long did it take you to learn it? So I take it you must have taken some high school Spanish then?
Yeah, so I took 4 years high school Spanish, but one of my best friends growing up is from Oaxaca, Mexico. And so his uncle owned a local Mexican restaurant here, and I would go there and practice my Spanish. So I was able to retain a lot of that. And ever at NMC, I was part of the International Students Club, and we had some Spanish speakers who were members, and I would practice my Spanish with them. And so I was able to retain a lot of that Spanish. So when I went to Spain, I was able to build upon that, become a little bit more fluent. So I'm not exactly sure where I stand with my proficiency, but I'm definitely proficient enough to hold my own.
Yeah, and in Rota, was English widely spoken, or was it do the people there only really speak Spanish? You had to speak Spanish to survive.
It's kind of a mix. So it kind of depending on where you went in Rota. There's a pretty strong American presence there now, especially with the ships being stationed over there. So I found like a lot of the locals in Rota at least spoke Spanish and English. But once you kind of got out of there, and I would drive to like Jerez de la Frontera, and like no one would really speak English over there. It was really just like Rota and then major Spanish cities like Seville and Madrid and Barcelona.
So you benefited from some of that total immersion. And I had a similar experience. I was did some time in Naples, Italy, and no one there really speaks English. So you really have to pick up Italian pretty quickly. And I felt like I benefited because you're just in that total immersion environment where if you don't speak it every day, you don't get to eat, right. You can't order a meal at a restaurant or anything like that. So definitely that's like one of the best parts of my military experience. And it sounds like it was yours as well, was getting to live overseas and learning about a new language and culture. So wanted to also hear about some of your travels. So we talked ahead of the podcast. You mentioned you're fairly well traveled throughout Europe and the Middle East, and I'd like to get some of those stories.
Yeah, I absolutely loved being able to travel around. I just experienced just so much. I think I need to double check my exact count, but I think I've been to 27 different countries, and that kind of includes if you break up UK into different countries. So like Scotland, Northern Ireland, and then you also have England, Wales. I never made it to Wales though, but I did go to Gibraltar.
Oh, cool. So which were some of the best experience you had in those countries? Do you have a favorite overseas experience or a few you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think one of my favorite moments was when I was finally able to go visit the Republic of Ireland for the first time. I ended up going there 4 times. None of them for deployments. I just would go take my own personal leave and just head over there. But growing up, I was just really into Irish culture, and I was really into like listening to music. And so when I went there, I didn't really go there with any plans. And so I kind of based myself in Dublin, and my plan was to travel around and take photos. And so I signed up for a whole bunch of tours, went all around Ireland and took photos. I have like maybe 400 photos from that time.
Wow. So what were your favorite things you photographed while you were over there? So was photography always an interest of yours? Was that a newfound passion when you were overseas?
It's always been a passion of mine. I just never really had the money to travel growing up. So I was able to like really like get into like landscape photography with my travels and just kind of learn about some of the historical sites and talking to meet people and just learning so much. I really enjoyed landscape photography and like just like the beauty of just nature and the mountains everywhere I go. And Ireland's just a very beautiful place. But I mean, so is much of Europe. Like almost everywhere you go is just so beautiful.
So I gotta ask you, so do you have a real big camera, like one of those Canons, or do you just do everything on your iPhone?
So I had a Nikon D5200. So it's like an amateur starter type of a DSLR. And so I'd travel around and take photos using that. I did get into using my camera phone as well. Like I have a Google Pixel and it has a really good camera. And so I started doing that too because it was just kind of bulky carrying the camera around sometimes. And there's like toward the end of my time in the Navy, I got into this thing. I think we called it like a lens ball. It's like a glass marble, and if you focused on the marble, it would take the image that's behind it and flip it. And so I have like a really cool photo of like the Egyptian pyramids where it's like the pyramids is upside down in the marble. It's kind of cool.
Wow, that's that's pretty cool. So switching gears a little bit, did any of those travels further your academic interests for when you left the Navy and decided to go to college?
Yeah, and I would say just seeing like international trade and like how like different businesses just in different countries kind of operated and see how well just everything's just so interconnected. Really got me interested in like it just kind of strengthened my passion for international relations, but also like look into economics and business but at the same time I also witnessed a lot of just hardships faced by a lot of people around the Mediterranean. A lot of people coming from like poor backgrounds and seen some refugees. At one point, my ship was actually part of a rescue mission where we rescued 97 Libyan refugees. And that was back in, I'd say like the tail end of July 2016. I think that's
Wow.
what that was. But like, yeah, so it's just like witnessing a lot of stuff like that kind of changed my perspective. And so coming back to the US, I wanted to pursue international relations, but also like economics and business because I felt like I could have a stronger impact on communities if I were to pursue business and economics. And so at the time I didn't quite know it, but like I guess I really want to look into international development.
Oh, cool. Yeah, and then so just shifting gears to talk about your decision to attend Harvard. So when did you decide you wanted to get out of the Navy? How soon did you start thinking about applying to Harvard? What were your thoughts there?
Yeah, so I guess I was kind of planning on getting out of the Navy before I even joined. I just wanted a way to help me pay for school. And but I mean, I had a lot of great experiences, made a lot of great friends, got to travel finally too. So originally I definitely was not anticipating getting to a school like Harvard. I was realistically looking at maybe Michigan State, University of Michigan, Calvin College, or I think it's called Calvin University now, in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And yeah, so I because I couldn't get student loans by myself, I wanted to look for ways in which I can pay and get like scholarships as well. So I retook the SAT and I actually scored much higher than I anticipated. And I think I scored like the 92nd percentile. It was pretty good for having been out of school for a while. And then I mean that opened up a lot more doors. And so I thought maybe I'd apply to a couple of reach schools just to see what happens. And I was looking at Princeton's website actually because they had just announced that they're going to start taking transfer students. And so when I was going to be applying would have been like their second year accepting transfer students. And so I was looking at their website and then I saw that they were partnering with Service to School. And so clicked on that, learned about Service to School, thought I'd reach out, see if my academic background would interest them at all. And I mean, it did. And they paired me up with a really awesome ambassador. And I'll say his name. His name is Brady. Awesome guy. I think he still serves in the military. He was a Black Hawk helicopter pilot, went to West Point, and then he went on to get his master's from Cambridge. It's just really impressive background and very, very kind, very generous. He helped me a lot, provided me a lot of great insight and advice, and he helped me a lot as far as like crafting my personal statement. And so he actually encouraged me to apply to Harvard, and so I did, and I definitely did not anticipate getting into any top schools or anything. I just put my best foot forward, hope for the best. I'm just thankful that like some of these schools just considered my story and my story kind of resonated with the admissions.
That's pretty cool. So how'd you hear about Service School again? Was that just like a web search, or did you hear about it through your personal network in the military?
I was I was just looking at Princeton's website for transfer students, and it was on that website they mentioned that they were partnering with BetLink for service to school, and so I just kind of followed that website, and I was able to learn about service to school that way.
Really
I
cool.
think this was back in 2018.
Really cool. So what was it like getting to campus? You're definitely older than a lot of your classmates. So what did that feel like? How did you kind of find your place on campus when you were a more experienced person who had seen a lot more of the world than many of your classmates?
Yeah, so it definitely was a challenge. So being older than most of my classmates, but also like coming in as a transfer student, because when I was admitted, there were only 12 of us transfer students, and none of us knew anyone on campus. And so yeah, that adjustment and the orientation process is quite different too. I think a lot of first year students get a lot more robust orientation process, and so we didn't have the same type of resources. We had access to the same type of resources, but we had to do a lot more learning on our own. Yeah, so adjusting age-wise, I guess like my experience in community college actually kind of prepared me pretty well for this, because you see a lot of students who come from a variety of different ages here in community college. And so a lot of my friends from the International Students Club, for example, a lot of them were a mixture of different ages. Some were like in their 30s, some were in their mid-20s, and I was like 19 years old at the time. And so like in a way, just kind of interacting with everybody, despite our different backgrounds, like we were like a family. And so I learned a lot about what it meant to be part of a community. And so coming to Harvard, I just kind of had that kind of mentality, and I kind of view myself as the older student now. And so I was looking for ways in which I could find common ground with some of the students, finding these things in interest, hobbies. Just talk about a lot of my suite mates were actually from Europe, so I was able to talk about Europe and stuff like that too, and make friends who, especially with those who've traveled around. And it definitely was really easy to kind of make friends. And living in Quincy House, it's the People's House at Harvard. And one of my fellow transfer friends, we didn't really know anyone, and so what we would do is we'd eat lunch together, but we'd just find different tables and sit with just sometimes just random people, and just talk and get to know them. And we were able to make a lot of good friends that way.
That's really cool. And so, what kind of activities do you take part in while you were at school?
Yeah, so Harvard, I got involved with the Harvard Undergraduate Veterans Organization, UVO, and I eventually took on some leadership roles with that as well. At first, I was like the outreach chair, and then I took over as the director of membership engagement. We started getting more veterans on campus, trying to build a community for the veterans and be a resource for them. That way, at a bare minimum, they had at least someone to come to. I was also involved with the Alexander Hamilton Society. We kind of focused on foreign affairs and international relations type of issues, and we'd have different kind of speaker events, and we'd have like simulations and negotiation exercises and that kind of stuff. I also was like a research assistant for the negotiation task force at Harvard, that's in their Davis Center for Russian and Eurasian Studies. And then there's some other clubs I was a part of. I actually accidentally joined the Hellenic Society. So it's a club where pretty much all the members are Greek, or they're from Greece. And so that was really interesting. I was actually like at the Student Activities Fair, and I was looking for the Italian Society. I was trying to join the Italian club, but I couldn't quite find it. And so I decided that I'm just going to go up to some random table and ask them if they happen to know where the Italian Society was. And I was wearing a shirt I had bought in Crete. And so it's like Creta. And so I go up to the table, and it's the Hellenic Society. It was like, oh. And so they asked me if I want to join. I was like, I guess. I mean, so I asked them like what they did. And they would get together and hang out and sometimes go out, grab gyros, and it's something. Yeah, so it's definitely a lot of fun. So I just like, yeah, sure, why not? And so it's definitely very fun club to be kind of a part of, and I still got friends who are in that club.
Yeah, so I'm actually a Greek American myself, so good on you for joining the Hellenic Club. So it's, Greeks are good people, man. So glad you had a good time with them.
Very beautiful country.
Yeah, I've been myself. So I take it you pulled it to Hania in Crete.
I think we pulled in.
Yeah, it's just such a great spot. Yeah,
we pulled in like 15 times.
Gotcha. Yeah, we were there during the winter, unfortunately, so we didn't really get to get out to the beaches or anything like that. But yeah, it's just a great spot. So I take it you were there. You got to see all the seasons there.
Yep, very beautiful.
Good stuff. Well, then what attracted you to Americorps, and how have you enjoyed the experience there?
Yeah, so in the Americorps, I'm serving as a college completion coach with Michigan College Access Network. And so what kind of got me into this program a little bit was, so I was working on an honors thesis, seeking to explain why many military veterans kind of forego benefits and support programs available to them. And I was kind of taking like a behavioral economics approach to looking into it. So like looking at behavior biases that may be influencing veterans' decisions. And so as part of my outreach for my research for my survey, I would reach out to community colleges that would have veteran communities. And I would go to and so making phone calls and I saw like many of these community colleges I was reaching out to they weren't really in touch with their veteran population. And I was looking for ways in which I could like better support them. I found with like my thesis, like many veterans are just unaware of benefits and support programs available to them. And and in some communities, they just like don't, there are just barriers that kind of prevent them, some physical, some socioeconomic barriers that kind of prevent them. But at the same time, just thinking back about my own experience in community college, as a first generation college student, I just, like neither of my parents went to university, but I didn't, so as a trying to apply for transfer, I didn't know what I was doing. And so in hindsight, I should have like, applied to a number of different universities and actually called their financial aid office and looked for outside scholarships, but I didn't really know how to go about doing that. But by this point in my life, I kind of have some idea now. And so working on this thesis kind of prevented me from studying for the LSAT and the GRE. And I was hoping to apply for law school for the next upcoming cycle. And so I decided to take a gap year and serve in the Americorps. I can give back to NMC students, give back to where I'm from, work with students here. And I've been working with first generation low income students, students from minority backgrounds. I've been focusing on students from rural counties as well. And so taking some my spare time to study for these exams and prepare for law school applications and do whatever I can to help some of these students here and provide them some additional support too when they work on transfer applications too.
That's really cool. And so you've already answered the next question I have, but I'd like to hear a little bit more about it. So I want to know what's up next for you after you're done with your AmeriCorps job. So you said law school, and I was just curious as to where you're at in that process, and if you've got any other ambitions with what you want to do, if you're working as a lawyer, what type of law you'd like to practice.
Yeah, I'm still kind of figuring all that out myself. I just submitted 4 applications so far, and I got a few more I'm working on. Just doing my best to kind of craft my personal statement and I'm actually paired up with an ambassador from Service to School helping me out. So whenever I do get into a law school, we'll find out where I'll be giving back as well, and probably not with undergraduate admissions, but also with law school admissions, hopefully. And yeah, and as far as what I'm going to try and focus or specialize in, I definitely want to look into international law, maybe some comparative law. I heard that there's a nonprofit organization in DC called Lawyers Without Borders, and that sounded pretty interesting. And so I'm going to look more into seeing like some of the kind of work that they do. And then I'm also like really interested in like business law and like international development still. And so I'm kind of interested in see like the intersection of law, international development, and see in which ways I can kind of support people. But also like at the same time, like whenever I do like that kind of legal work, I would like to do some pro bono work on the side too. So working with some veterans, legal services, and providing some additional support for incoming immigrants as well. So whatever I can do to help them out too.
That's really cool. So how is the admissions process different for you applying to undergrad versus applying to law school?
Yeah, it's definitely different.
Like the application process, yeah.
Yeah, so there's definitely some similarities, but some differences. Major differences would be, well, for one, the standardized tests are much harder. So definitely
yeah.
That. But also like your personal statement is a little bit more narrow, like just like explain why you want to pursue law school, like why law school. And so that's just kind of thinking about that and reflecting on my own personal experience and like looking for ways to kind of like reduce barriers for others and figuring out a way to kind of tell my story, but also tie that in was kind of tricky. Also like it's also like you're applying to a professional school, so you had to submit a resume as well. And so figuring out how to go about that. I have a lot of different work experiences and life experiences. So it was kind of hard for me to put all that on one page resume. So I had to come up with a couple of different versions, like a 1-page and a 2-page resume. And then deciding what kind of resume to submit was really difficult. But I feel like with law school applications, there's less components to it. So like for me, there's like personal statement, there's an optional like diversity statement, the resume, and then as well. And then because when I applied to Harvard, I also submitted like some additional stuff like like an excerpt from like a chapter from the book that I started a long time ago. And then also like some additional creative writing. I may have submitted a copy of a one of the articles I wrote for the college newspaper, but as I mean, that happened so many years ago, so I didn't want to submit that to any law schools for now. Actually, I don't think that I could really even do that, anyways.
Yeah. Do you want to continue writing? Like, were you thinking about doing like law review work or anything like that, or have you continued your writing pursuits?
Yeah, I really love to write, and so I definitely want to join some kind of legal journal for sure. Not sure what kind yet, so kind of exploring that. It would be nice to look into international relations and that as well. And but I'm also interested in like just doing some like creative writing, creative nonfiction writing as well. I've been exploring around some ideas, so maybe like a collection of short stories of my travels in Spain, or like kind of a little bit inspired by like F. Scott Fitzgerald and Hemingway and their experiences and their travels in France, and but also like at the same time get back into writing that one book I started a long time ago. It's like a fantasy adventure book. I'm like 5 chapters into it, so I definitely want to get back into that, get back into writing. I didn't really get to do much of that during the Navy. Kind of felt like I was just too tired all the time, and my creativity kind of died. But
Oh man,
on my travels and being at Harvard, I was just really inspired, and so definitely want to get back into that.
that's cool. What's your favorite book?
That's a really good question. I guess it kind of depends on the genre, but one of my favorite books would be, I'd say I really enjoyed reading the stories told by Khaled Hosseini.
Yep.
So he's the author of The Kite Runner. But my favorite
Yep.
book by him is actually his second book, and that's A Thousand Splendid Suns.
Oh
And
wow.
so I really like that one. And then after reading that, I read In the Mountains Echoed, which is the third book, and then I read The Kite Runner after that. And then I think he actually came out with some children's stories too. But then after
Wow.
him, I really enjoyed Fitzgerald, Hemingway, some of their books as well.
Yeah, did you get a chance to go to Paris at all when you were in Europe and go to some of their old haunts?
I did. So one of my all time favorite movies is Midnight in Paris, and so I actually retraced some of the steps of Hemingway and Fitzgerald. So I went to there's a cocktail bar over there called Harry's New York Bar, and it's like one of the oldest cocktail bars in Europe, and that was just really cool. Like some of the bartenders still wear like white lab coats and mixing like cocktails like they're chemical concoctions, and just really interesting. And going to some of the piano bars and jazz clubs, and it's really nice experience. I actually got befriended a local Parisian, and he actually took me to some like non-touristy spots, and I tried some local cuisine that like some of my friends who've been to France before like didn't even know about. Like there's a dish called aligot, and it's like it's kind of like mashed potatoes and cheese. It takes many hours to prepare, and like as you eat it, like you have to like twist your fork like pasta, and then when you put it in your mouth, like it just immediately melts. It's really good.
Oh wow. Sounds
I love
sounds
France.
incredible. Cool. Well, as we wrap things up, I'd just like to get some of your advice you have for people who might still be on active duty, thinking about getting out and going to college. Specifically, some advice you might have on how to prep for the SATs, applications, and how you're able to use your veterans benefits.
Yeah. Well, for starters, veterans and transitioning service members should definitely lean on their resources and people who've been through the process before, and see like any best practices, tips that they have. Also reaching out to other veterans who are at some of these colleges that interest them, and like with the GI Bill, like you pretty much use that anywhere. And so exploring like some schools that like just some location that really interests you, where your family wants to go. And but you're preparing for the SAT or the ACT. Well, right now many schools don't really require those, so it may, depending on the individual circumstances, it may be good for them to take the test or not. So I would like look into that too. But yeah, I mean, just taking practice tests and finding some study guides. I've always used Kaplan, but I mean, like a lot of these like Princeton Review and some other resources are really good too. And then yeah, reaching out. Yeah, so I mean, Services School is a fantastic organization, and like pairing up with ambassadors, like a lot of us, like it's like honestly almost everyone I know, as far as veterans at Harvard College, I'm gonna say like, almost everyone got through using help from Services School, as well as the Warrior Scholar Project, and tapping into Student Veterans of America is also an awesome organization, providing lots of support, and just lots of resources that are out there to help veterans, and having like other people who've kind of been through the process kind of provide their insight on like the personal statement, and provide some feedback, and just helping to kind of like consider like the veteran's story, and just being authentic and looking at hard skills and soft skills and many different things.
And touching on your last point there about the veteran's story, is there any advice on how veterans can best tell their story on applications and things you did that were successful?
Yeah. At least what I try to do with whenever I worked on personal statements is like show some kind of movement with my personal narrative. And so I'm like kind of talking about like where I came from, where I've gone, and kind of like what I'm doing here in the present, but what I also hope to do in the future. And also like having some like thinking about some like personal experiences for like anecdotes, finding ways to kind of like catch your readers' attention. Because I mean, like in a way, like you want to maintain your readers' attention throughout the personal statement, but you also want to kind of like convince them as to like why they want to have you on their campus, and how like you would interact with other students and like staff members and faculty, and like also kind of thinking like how would you be as a roommate and friend for some current students. And so yeah, so you just want to be mindful of that aspect as well. But also like I mean everyone has a story to tell. And so like no one's life experience is going to be exactly the same as anyone else. And so like think about your academic journey, like even if you didn't come from like a stellar academic background, like who you are now is maybe quite different from that. You might be much more motivated, and and so you just gotta like learn how to, or like figure out a way to demonstrate that motivation. And so like yeah, so especially with a lot of this material, you want to do a lot more showing rather than telling. And so it's one thing to say that you do certain things, it's different to show like through anecdotes and other aspects, like on resume or something, like what exactly you did to demonstrate that passion. So
Gotcha. And then as far as just like overcoming some things, like, and I'm not thinking about you, but maybe other veterans you've talked to, and also in your position at Americorps, how have people been able to overcome things like potentially like a low high school GPA or any other kind of setback they might have had to then succeed in an undergraduate application and then later in school?
yeah, so lately whenever I work with students, I kind of tell them that some like oftentimes, especially with some admissions committees, is like some of these committees will actually they're interested in the student beyond the numbers. And so the GPA does paint a picture of a student performance at one point in their life, but like that's in the past, you know. And so like what they did in high school may be different than what they're doing here at the community college. It's a different chapter of their life. And so like think about different ways in which to kind of paint a picture of who you are. High school academic records, test scores, they only paint only a part of the picture of who the student is. And so the student's life experiences, carries a lot of weight as well. And sometimes like if they have a low GPA, like whenever I'm looking at students' track record or something in my college system, I'm looking to see whether or not they have something else going on the side, like if they're working full time, part time, if they're coming from a distance. Because some of these students I work with are driving an hour away, so I think one student's driving 2 hours roughly, and so like looking at that too, and so like there's a lot of different factors that can impact the student's performance. And so identifying some of these barriers that may be preventing them from being really successful, and like looking for ways in which they could utilize some resources that are available to them. And so thinking like once they do get to a school that has these resources where they don't have to worry about all this stuff, like I mean they could potentially perform a lot better. And so students need to be forgiving of themselves, their test scores and pass high school GPA. Like I mean it is what it is, but it doesn't define them though.
That's great. Well, look, I just really wanted to thank you for taking the time to talk to us. Your insights have been incredible, and I'm sure people are really gonna benefit from hearing your words of wisdom. So, thanks again for the great work you've done and are continuing to do.
Thanks so much for having me, and I'm looking forward to continuing to serve service school, and I hope to see you guys sometime in the near future.
That's it for this episode. Join us next week, same time, same place, where we share more Service to School stories. Service to School Stories is hosted by Sydney Mathis, the Director of Student Success, and produced by Amanda Tobias, the Director of Communication at Service to School. Service to School is a 501c3 nonprofit providing free college admission support to transitioning service members and veterans. Join us next time and follow us for more on all of your favorite social media platforms.